Where are we? What the hell is going on? The dust has only just begun to fall. Crop circles in the carpet, sinking feeling. Spin me round again and rub my eyes. This can't be happening when busy streets a mess with people would stop to hold their heads heavy. Hide and seek, trains and sewing machines. All those years, they were here first. Oily marks appear on walls where pleasure moments hung before the takeover, the sweeping insensitivity of this still life.
Tyler and I are sitting here with Mr. Schnabel, and we were wondering if we could ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Alright, our first one would be like, could you tell us about how drunk driving has affected your life personally?
Sure. It was July 13th, 1990. I'll always remember the day, Friday the 13th, actually. I grew up here in East Peoria, so I was visiting my grandmother's house with my mom and my brother, and anyway, we'd visited there. She lived in Pekin, and we were heading back to East Peoria, and we were coming back, through the country roads there, Springfield Road, whatever that turns into as it goes over to Pekin. And anyway, we were coming back that way, and I don't know if Caterpillar still does it the same way or not, but at that time, 20 years ago, they had cat vacation, and when it was cat vacation, the factory guys left and everybody had vacation. They shut down, everybody had vacation at the same time. Well, anyway, it was the first day of cat vacation. In fact, it was the last day of work. It was that Friday, it was the last day of work. So the foreman wanted to take all of his, all the guys who work for him out, and have a good time, have a couple drinks and unwind. So he did. He took them all to a bar. They had a good time, and there was a series of bad decisions, okay, that happened that night. And one of them was on the part of the foreman, because he, was trying to be a good guy. He took all of his workers, his buddies out. All the beer was on him. So everybody's drinking, having a good time. This one guy, Roger, had way too much to drink. In fact, and this is one of those bad decisions, his buddies put him in his truck and started it. He couldn't even get in his truck. And somehow he got the thing in gear and headed down the road. Right about the time he was doing that, my mom was driving. We were coming back from Pekin. It was 8:13 at night. I remember the clock. I remember all the details vividly. It's been 20 years for me, but I remember everything vividly. I always will. So anyway, the witnesses that were behind Roger said that he had run 3 other cars off the road, 3 or 4 other cars, 4 other cars I think, off the road. And we were at a point where there was just there's no shoulder to the road, there's no place to go. So there's no place to go. And he passed out behind the wheel, and he crossed the center line and hit our car head on. The folks that were behind him, the other car, said he was going 55. There were no brake lights, and we were going 45. So if you can imagine, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever been in a little accident, a fender bender. You know, when you're in an accident going 20, 30 miles an hour, it's scary. You know, it's scary. But if you can imagine the impact, they say it would be like you combine the total of both vehicles, and that's what it's like hitting a brick wall. So it'd be like going 100 miles an hour and just stopping in a brick wall, you know, just right away. So anyway, that's what the impact was like. Hit us head on. There was no shoulder to the road, so when we stopped, the car was upside down on its roof, facing the other direction, the opposite direction that we were going. I remember all the details, and I won't go into everything. I didn't lose consciousness. I was awake for everything, and the first guy on the scene to respond was a county deputy, and he crawled in the car and he called for life flight. And my mom died there at the scene, and the guy that hit us died shortly after. He did make it back to the hospital, but they en route to the hospital had to crack his chest, and they started to massage his heart to try and keep him alive. But I mean, afterwards, after the blood tests and stuff, he was over twice the legal limit, so he'd had a lot to drink. My brother and I were in the hospital for quite a while. It was hard. I was 16. You know, I was just 16. So it was really difficult. It was the summer. I had just gotten back from U of I, from a summer camp there, and you know, there were so many things going on, so many changes, and so many things that that my mom, you know, who died, didn't know about me. She has no idea. She had no idea I was going to be a teacher. She knew I was in band. She didn't know, you know, where my future would go. There's just so many things. I have 3 kids now, you know. I mean, just she didn't know any of them, of course, and she didn't know where I was going to go to college. There's just a ton of things. So it really affected my life, and left an impression that I'll certainly never forget.
Here is Sergeant Brian Despines of the East Peoria Police Department, and we just had a few questions, if that's alright, about drunk driving.
Okay.
Our first question is, has drunk driving affected your life?
Yes. In many ways. Being a police officer, you see a lot of different aspects and how drinking in general can affect families, friends, influence jobs. Personally, I've had family members in my family that have been alcoholics, that have drank and driven vehicles, and have been arrested for DUI. It's an addiction, it's an illness, it's very hard to deal with. It takes a lot of willpower to try to keep that under control. And unless you're in someone else's shoes under those circumstances, sometimes it's hard for us to understand why it's so difficult for those people to stop those situations.
What is your outlook on drunk driving?
Well, generally, the person behind the wheel, it's depending on how much alcohol they